At the center of the chamber, projected in brutal clarity, was the live stream. A grainy human feed. A backwater human colony, once green with forests and rivers, now a smoldering graveyard. Alien walkers strode across the ashes, their cannons glowing, their mechanical screeches blending with the screams of the dying. A child, small, bleeding, her voice raw, looked straight into the drone camera before the feed snapped to static. Applause followed. Not loud, not cruel, just measured, pleased, efficient. Operation Subjugate Aurelius completed, announced High Strategos Charkveth of the Zarn Dominion, his exoform pulsing with blue authority. Minimal losses. We deem this the final lesson. Earth is fractured. Its outer colonies now dust. They will submit within weeks. Several tentacled beings bobbed in agreement. A reptilian counselor hissed a laugh. One delegate, a gelatinous orb wearing a monocle for reasons no one ever dared ask, said, "Perhaps now they'll accept their place beneath the boot." There was an expectant pause. Then a chime rang across the council chamber. An incoming message from Earth. Unencrypted. Public. Deliberately. The display shifted. Static. Then darkness. A single room came into view. Dimly lit. Steel walls. Earth's flag behind a podium. No polished uniforms. No bureaucratic pomp. A man stepped forward. Gray buzz cut. Wrinkled eyes that had seen too many fields of war. No nameplate. No introduction. He simply leaned into the mic and spoke. "You committed genocide on Aurelia Station. You bombed our hospitals. You hunted our civilians." He paused. "You made a mistake." No yelling. No threats. Just those 5 words. "You made a mistake." There was a flicker in the transmission. The camera feed zoomed out, revealing the man was surrounded by others. A dozen figures. Not diplomats. Not politicians. Soldiers. Hard-bitten, scarred, each one wearing gear that looked battered but lethal. Some chewed gum. One leaned on a baseball bat spiked with nails. Another, bare-chested except for dog tags, raised a single finger in salute. The feed cut out. Total silence. For a few seconds, the chamber was quiet. Then someone laughed. It was a soft, gurgling sound from a being with 3 throats. "Oh, humans," croaked the counselor from the new Ruby Combine. Always so dramatic. But the laughter didn't last long. Because 6 hours later, Admiral Yarek's fleet, stationed in celebratory orbit above Aurelius, went dark. Every ship, gone. No survivors. No escape pods. No black box data. All that remained was a message burned into the hull of the Admiral's flagship, adrift in orbit. "We aren't civilized anymore." And Earth's voice returned again, this time blaring through every frequency the Council used. "You hurt our children," said the same gray-haired man. "Now we hunt you." Half the chamber dismissed it as posturing. The other half scrambled to verify the impossible. But deep beneath the surface of Earth, humanity had changed. They'd mourned enough, played nice long enough, sat at the edge of the galactic table while eating whatever scraps were tossed their way. They tried the whole diplomacy thing. And now they'd activated something far older, far worse. Predator protocols. In a concealed command bunker under the Rocky Mountains, General Jack Braddock, the man from the video, stood before a massive screen showing tactical readouts in red. His voice was gravel and gunpowder, his jaw set like carved stone. "We've confirmed the Empire used playgrounds on the Aurelius colony," his aide said, eyes heavy with fury. "They weren't just trying to wipe us out. They wanted it to hurt." Braddock nodded. "Tell Project Hades they're greenlit." His aide hesitated. "Sir, that program was shelved for." Braddock didn't blink. Greenlit. Moments later, a transmission bounced off 8 different relay satellites, ghosting through 100 blacklisted channels before reaching a small spaceport in Earth's orbit. Captain Lex Monroe was halfway through her 3rd shot of espresso when her wristband blinked crimson. She looked down at it, then smirked. Finally, she stood, slinging her combat jacket over one shoulder, and yelled across the hangar, "Mondo, Bubbles, grab your gear. It's go time." Sergeant Mondo popped his head out of a ventilation shaft. "Is it the lizard people again?" "No," she said. "The real ones this time." Bubbles, Private Jessica Tran, who had once terrified an alien ambassador by singing the Full House theme in the middle of a hostage negotiation, grinned ear to ear. "Does this mean I can finally use the cassette grenades?" Monroe tapped her wristband, voice smug. "Operation Boogeyman is a go." Aboard the human strike cruiser Doom Prophet, the squad assembled with a wild mix of gear. Duct tape bombs, sound-based weapons that played 80s glam rock at frequencies designed to shatter alien bone structures. Modified laser rifles shaped like super soakers. Their flagship AI, Hank, greeted them with his usual grumpy sarcasm. "Finally dragged yourselves in, huh?" the AI crackled. "I've been prepping for this since they blew up Kansas." Lex snapped her helmet into place. "You don't even like Kansas." "I like Earth, Monroe. All of it. Even Florida." The ship's engines flared. Course plotted. Alien Empire Forward Command. Location, Exo Sector 5. Population, 1.2 billion alien citizens and 2 regiments of elite guards. Target, terrorize and humiliate. As Doom Prophet vanished into hyperspace, General Braddock leaned against a table, watching live feeds from other human units mobilizing. They weren't sending full armies. Not yet. Just select teams. Predators. He picked up a small photo off the command table. It showed a young girl. Brown hair. Big smile. The kind only kids have when they think the world is safe. Aurelius. He set the photo down. They would never feel safe again. 3 days later, the Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Not because of casualties, though there were many, but because of confusion. Total, gut-wrenching confusion. Entire bases were infiltrated with no breaches. Supply lines vanished. Important officials woke up with their heads shaved, bodies zip-tied to hovercrafts, and signs on their backs reading, "I started the genocide, and all I got was this lousy PTSD." Worse, someone hacked the Empire's official anthem and replaced it with Eye of the Tiger. Counselor Charkveth slammed a clawed fist on the table. "These are not civilized tactics." A new voice cut in. Earth's ambassador, who had sat silent during every prior meeting, stood. He wasn't a warrior. He wore no armor. Just a rumpled Earth suit, tie askew, coffee in hand. He sipped, then nodded slowly. "You're right," he said. The room went still. "We're not civilized anymore." Someone whispered, "They've gone feral." He smiled. Not feral. Focused. Braddock's voice echoed through the chamber then, pre-recorded, yet chilling. "You brought war to our front door. Killed our young. Destroyed our peace. And you mistook our silence for submission." A pause. "But we were just sharpening our knives." Every screen in the chamber flickered, showing different angles. An alien war fleet exploding mid-warp. An elite ground team surrendering, naked, duct-taped, and sobbing, while human operators laughed. A flag planted on a captured alien base. The Earth symbol redrawn as fanged jaws. "And now," Braddock's voice continued, "we're coming for everything you ever loved. Let the hunt begin." The council fell into chaos. Screams. Orders. Retreats. Systems blinked red. But nothing would stop what was already in motion. Earth's predators had been unleashed. And this time, there would be no peace. Only prey. And humans were very, very hungry. Aboard the Doom Prophet, the recycled air tasted like sweat, ozone, and brewing vengeance. The lights flickered overhead as the ship tore through hyperspace with all the subtlety of a bar brawl. Somewhere deep within the hull, Danger Zone blared through the PA system, not as a joke, but as a mission briefing. Captain Lex Monroe leaned back in her crash seat, chewing the end of a protein bar like it had insulted her mother. Her fingers danced over her wrist console, pulling up blueprints of the alien command station designated as Drop Zone Vulture, an orbital station home to 87,000 personnel and 2 full brigades of Zarn Dominion soldiers. She wasn't intimidated. She was annoyed it wasn't more. To her left, Sergeant Mondo was duct-taping a combat knife to the barrel of his plasma rifle. Not for effectiveness, for style. "You know," he grunted, "I had a dream last night. We showed up to the alien capital, and it was all made of IKEA furniture. Lex didn't look up. What did you do? I burned it. Good. On the other side of the room, Private Jessica Bubbles Tran was twirling a cassette tape between her fingers. The tape was labeled Boombox Justice in big, chaotic lettering. She wore aviators indoors, despite having night vision implants. Her entire loadout consisted of a boom mic, a flamethrower, and a backpack full of questionable tech she'd built herself. Question, she said cheerily, how many alien death squads do we expect to face? Lex replied without missing a beat, enough to make it fun. Bubbles grinned like a raccoon in a fireworks factory. Sick. The fourth member of the team, Lieutenant Malik Vaughn, stood silently by the holotable, arms crossed, eyes scanning the station schematics. He was ex-Black Ops, with a tactical mind like a bear trap, calm, quiet, and devastating when triggered. He spoke only when he had something lethal to say. They keep most of their security in concentric tiers, Malik said, gesturing to the station diagram. If we breach from the waste disposal shafts, we skip 3 checkpoints and land directly in their AI core. Mondo blinked. You want us to go through the sewer? It's not a sewer, Malik corrected. It's a waste vaporization vent. So fancy sewer. Lex finally smiled. All right, team. We breach from the end. Bubbles gave a slow clap. Poetic. Their target was more than strategic. It was symbolic. Drop Zone Vulture was one of the Empire's largest command and control centers, and the home of the Dominion's most prized asset, a logic-based superintelligence called Krislin. It coordinated fleet movements across 3 sectors. If it went offline, chaos would ripple across half the Empire. And Earth wanted chaos. They didn't want to win pretty. They wanted to make it ugly. Lex stood, cracking her knuckles. Let's review the mission plan. Mondo, you breach the control room and set charges on the quantum server core. Bubbles, unleash your distraction package in the mess hall. Keep them dancing and screaming. Music or fire? Bubbles asked. Yes, Lex replied. Love that for me. Malik and I will intercept the command staff in the ops wing. We need them alive. Briefly. Questions. Mondo raised a hand. After we're done, can we write Earth was here in radioactive paint? Lex nodded. Make it glow. The doomed prophet dropped out of hyperspace 30 kilometers from the station, cloaked in a jamming field thick enough to fry satellite dishes. The crew suited up, sleek black armor fitted with adaptive camo and old-school decals, flames, skulls, smiley faces. Lex's helmet flickered on. The HUD showed her squad's vitals. All green. All itching for the kill. Hank, she said, addressing the ship's sarcastic AI. Keep us cloaked, monitor for reinforcements, and if we die, make sure our death video is set to free bird. Copy that, boss, Hank replied. Also, I updated Mondo's playlist to Total Eclipse of the Heart. You're welcome. Bastard. A launch tube hissed open. The strike team shot into space inside torpedo-like pods, silent as vengeance. They streaked toward the station, impacting the outer hull near the vapor vents. Magnetic clamps deployed. The humans exited with precision and a casualness that felt like desecration. Lex pried open the vent panel. Steam hissed out. Ladies first, Mondo said, gesturing. Lex dropped in headfirst. They crawled through the stinking shaft, tight, hot, and humming with mechanical vibrations. Their armor filtered the worst of it, but it was still an undignified entry. By the time they reached the extraction grill above the AI core chamber, Lex was already grinning. Showtime. They dropped into the room with synchronized fury. 2 guards spun, too late. Mondo gunned one down. Bubbles lobbed a cassette grenade at the other. Here comes the boom, she whispered. The grenade burst in midair, unleashing an ear-splitting rendition of Never Gonna Give You Up, followed by a fireball. Lex moved to the core panel. Krislin, this is your wake-up call. Earth says hi. A mechanical voice replied, cool and inhuman. You are violating Imperial jurisdiction. Surrender or face neutralization. Lex spat gum on the console. We're already past surrender, sugar. Mondo set charges. fingers flying across alien controls like he'd been born on this ship. We've got 10 minutes before this thing goes boom and sends every fleet in the sector blind. More than enough. Cut to Bubbles, currently juggling Molotovs in the alien mess hall, while screaming, "This is why you never cancel Baywatch." The room was chaos. Alien officers dodged fire and base-boosted explosions. Someone was crying. Someone else was dancing uncontrollably, caught in the feedback loop of an Earth dubstep bomb. Malik and Lex stormed the command wing, taking out guards with stun rounds and savage takedowns. They breached the command nexus, a wide chamber with holograms, shrieking alarms, and the Zarn Admiral's staff frozen in confusion. Who dares? Lex shot the speaker in the knee. I dare. Malik secured the exits. You're being hunted by apex primates armed with caffeine, grief, and several decades of psychological warfare experience. Welcome to the downside of Empire. The Admiral tried to activate a distress beacon. Lex tossed him. They uploaded a virus into the Dominion's data stream, something coded in the deepest corners of Earth's darkest corners of the Internet. Meme logic, paradox scripts, AI thought loops, so illogical they infected alien systems like digital rabies. Back in the core, Krislin began glitching. Error, illogical humor detected. Explain, why did the chicken cross the road? Lex's faceplate split into a grin. To hunt you, Krislin. The chicken's human now. They retreated as the charges began to count down. Hank lit up their HUDs with escape routes. Bubbles rejoined the team, dragging an alien chef in a headlock. He tried to stab me with a whisk. I respect that. They rendezvoused at the extraction point, ejected into space seconds before the doomed prophet picked them up mid-flight. The moment they were inside, the crew peeled off helmets, breathless and laughing like hyenas. Behind them, Drop Zone Vulture blossomed into a star of fire. Krislin screamed its last. I should have taken the chicken seriously. Lex sprawled on a bench, unzipping her collar. Mission complete. Also, Bubbles added, I may have uploaded Family Matters reruns to their entire media network. Oh no, Mondo deadpanned. They'll be emotionally compromised by Season 3. Hank cut in. We have incoming transmission from Earth Command. Putting it on the big screen. General Braddock appeared, arms folded, looking like someone who hadn't smiled in 10 years, but respected the hell out of what he just saw. Excellent work, he said. Krislin's offline. 3 sectors are in chaos. You've just made the Empire eat its own tail. Lex nodded. Feels good. Braddock's voice dropped. But you're not done. We intercepted a signal. There's a transport hub on the planet Saren V, abandoned on record, but we've confirmed human civilians being held there. Survivors of Aurelius. Prisoners. Everyone sobered instantly. Send the coordinates, Lex said. Braddock stared into the screen. You've proven we're not prey. Now show them we're the monsters they made us. The screen went dark. Mondo stood, stretching. Guess I better resharpen my spoon. Bubbles slung her pack over her shoulder. Guess I better build a laser saxophone. Malik simply reloaded. Lex stood, feeling that familiar, sharp ache in her chest. The ache of purpose. They weren't just killing now. They were saving. As the ship's engines fired up for their next destination, a single thought echoed through Lex's mind. Let them fear the dark. Because, in the dark, humans hunt best. The Empire didn't take the destruction of Drop Zone Vulture well. In the days that followed, transmissions across the galaxy turned frantic. Entire sectors reported malfunctions. Rogue AIs quoting sitcoms from the 1990s, and command staff hallucinating chickens at critical operations briefings. Panic spread faster than plasma fire in zero gravity. But the worst hadn't come yet. Not until the first planet vanished. Lex Monroe stared at the holographic display aboard the Doom Prophet as the blinking icon labeled Saren V blinked once, twice, then vanished. No impact signature. No comms. No debris. Just gone. She frowned. Say that again. Hank's voice cut through the silence, unusually serious. Saren V is no longer transmitting. Orbital satellites confirm the planet's mass is missing from its spatial coordinates. It has ceased to exist in every measurable sense. Bubbles squinted at the display. Is that a thing? Can a planet just nope out of reality? Mondo leaned back in his chair, arms folded. That's what I used to call my ex. Malik, ever the tactician, didn't crack a smile. Was it them or us? Lex kept her eyes on the blank spot where a world used to be. Saren V was where the prisoners were supposed to be held. Malik nodded grimly. So either the Empire wiped it before we got there, or someone else beat us to it. The thought left a heavy silence hanging in the air. Braddock's face appeared again, summoned without prompt, a rare expression of concern etched across his normally stone-carved features. You're not the only predator on the board anymore. Lex didn't blink. You think the Empire's doing this to hide what they've done? No, Braddock said. I think they poke something worse than us. The briefing cut to static. Then to grainy footage, shaky, distant, clearly from a scout drone. A moon-sized object, blacker than vacuum, drifted over a desert world in Sector 19. As it passed, oceans froze. Gravity twisted. Lights died across cities. And then, with no sound, the entire planet folded inward, like paper pulled into a black hole. The transmission ended with an image, carved into the crust of the moon, a simple phrase in Earth English. We told you not to hurt our children. Mondo leaned forward. That us? Lex shook her head. No, we don't do that. Bubbles grinned nervously. Not yet, anyway. Malik crossed his arms. Then, who the hell is cleaning up our messes like this? Hank answered. Not who. What? The doomed prophet dropped into orbit around Xenorus 12, a backwater supply hub suspected of moving captive humans. They didn't bother cloaking. At this point, subtlety was a lost art. Fear was their weapon now, and they wielded it with purpose. The orbital station didn't scramble fighters. Didn't even hail them. They were already surrendering by the time the humans hit the airlock. Lex and the team moved like death incarnate, quick, efficient, terrifying. Alien guards threw down weapons. Administrators begged for mercy. One even offered information in exchange for protection. Lex pressed a boot to his chest. Where were the prisoners sent? The creature shuddered, mandibles quivering. The Harvest Armory before it fell. Malik narrowed his eyes. Fell. It was devoured, the alien whimpered. Something darker than you. It came out of nowhere. Ate the facility. The sky broke. I ran. Lex glanced at her team. Coordinates. The alien gave them. Lex turned away. Stun him. Mondo obliged with a casual jab of a neuroprod. The alien twitched and crumpled to the floor. Bubbles was already walking toward the shuttle, humming Sweet Dreams are made of this, under her breath. You know, I always figured if someone beat us to vengeance, I'd be mad. Are you? Lex asked. Bubbles considered it. Kinda. But also impressed. They arrived at the coordinates 6 hours later, weapons hot. The Harvest Armory, or what was left of it, floated in orbit above a dead planet. Its structure was torn like taffy, half melted and wrapped in black tendrils of unknown composition. Hank scanned the debris. No known materials matched these readings. No energy signature. No life signs. No physics. Malik's eyes narrowed. That's not possible. Tell that to the black hole spaghetti. They moved in cautiously, boarding the remains of the armory through a sheared hull. The moment they entered, their suit sensors glitched. HUDs flickered. Sound dampened. Lex looked around. The walls pulsed. Not metaphorically. They actually pulsed like breathing metal. Alien corpses floated everywhere. Eyes wide, limbs twisted. No wounds. Just fear. They advanced to the central cell block. What they found chilled them to their bones. Every prisoner had been freed. Not a single human body. No signs of struggle. Just a single phrase carved into the steel floor with fingernail-deep gashes. They are ours to protect. Malik stared. This isn't an enemy. Lex disagreed. No, it's something ancient. Something watching. Waiting. An ally? Mondo asked hopefully. No, Lex said. Not ally. Not enemy. Bubbles tilted her head. Then what? Lex touched the words carved in steel. A shadow. One that's been waiting for the right moment to come back. Back aboard the ship, the team cleaned gear and ran diagnostics. The tension was palpable. Even Hank, who could usually be counted on for snark, remained quiet. Malik sat across from Lex, arms on the table. We set out to make them pay. To teach the Empire that humans weren't weak. Lex nodded. And now we're finding out, Malik said, that the universe may have already been watching. Lex exhaled. And decided we were the trigger. Mondo slouched in, holding a snack pouch. Okay, so hear me out. What if we're not the apex predators here? What if we're just a bait? No one uses humans as bait, Bubbles said. We're too spicy. The thought lingered. If something older, more ancient than even the Empire, had noticed humanity's suffering and responded with such total annihilation, then Earth's war had become more than personal. It was mythic. That night, Lex found herself standing alone on the observation deck, staring into the blackness beyond the stars. Her reflection in the glass looked unfamiliar, harder, older. She hadn't signed up to be a symbol. She'd signed up to kill the people who took her sister on Aurelius. And yet now she stood at the edge of something deeper. A war that wasn't just about justice anymore. It was about who got to define fear in the galaxy. Braddock's voice returned over secure comms. We just lost contact with 3 Empire worlds in the Atheon Belt. Same pattern. Disappeared mid-transmission. No survivors. No wreckage. Lex said nothing. You're being diverted, Braddock added. There's a summit. Emergency session of the remaining factions. They're calling it the last table. About time they invited us to dinner. They didn't. But we're going anyway. Lex shut the comm, turned from the stars, and walked back toward her team. Later, in the ready room, she laid out the new orders. The Empire's fractured. The disappearances have them pissing themselves. They're calling for peace. Truce. Whatever they think will buy them time. Mondo raised an eyebrow. Truce sounds suspiciously like letting them live. We're not going for peace, Lex replied. We're going to tell them the hunt's not over. Malik looked up. You think they'll listen? No, she said. I think they'll panic. And panic makes prey stupid. They landed on neutral ground 3 days later. An abandoned moon converted into a diplomatic safe zone. Every faction sent representatives. The Zarn Dominion. The New Ruby combine. Even a lone, jittery envoy from the distant Galactic Confederacy who kept flinching at the sound of Earth music. When Lex walked into the chamber with her team behind her, the air changed. Half the room tensed. The other half tried not to make eye contact. She walked straight to the central podium. Didn't wait for permission. We tried playing by the rules, she said. You burned our colonies, killed our civilians, laughed at our pain. So we changed. No one interrupted. Now planets are disappearing. You're scared. And you should be. The Glask envoy twitched. You are responsible for this? Lex smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. No. But we opened the door. There were murmurs, anger, confusion. Lex raised her voice. We're not here to negotiate. We're here to offer a warning. This war doesn't stop until you understand. We're not prey. We never were. We just played along until the teeth grew in. And the disappearances? Another delegate asked. They're a consequence, she replied, of what happens when you break something so badly it can't cry anymore. Only bite. She stepped down. No applause. Just silence. On their way out, Malik leaned in. You think they got the message? Lex glanced at the shadow rippling across the stars above the moon. A shape without form. Moving without light. They're about to, she said. As the doomed prophet lifted off, a final transmission from the moon's orbital array broadcast a single phrase, in every known language. The predators have awoken. And somewhere, out in the void, something responded with laughter. The doomed prophet descended through the upper atmosphere of Varric Prime, the crown jewel of a galactic empire, a world sculpted from perfection and ruled by ceremony. Towering crystal spires rose from a manicured surface of artificial oceans and curated landscapes. Cities designed not for function, but for awe. Every square meter of the planet whispered arrogance. But not tonight. Tonight it would scream. Lex Monroe stood on the bridge in full gear, arms crossed, helmet clutched at her side. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with war. Below them was the central command of the Dominion, the seat of its military, the place where the order had been given to erase Aurelius. They'd finally reached the top of the food chain. "They know we're coming," Malik said from her right, weapon slung low, voice as even as his pulse. "Good," Lex said. "Let him feel it coming." Mondo strapped a cluster of explosives across his chest like party decorations. "Never thought I'd see the heart of the Empire. Thought it'd be, I dunno, bigger." "It was always smaller than its shadow," Lex replied. "That's how cowards build power." Bubbles slid a data spike into her wristband, syncing every system to Hank. "I rigged their central broadcast tower to amplify our signal galaxy-wide. They'll hear us from here to sector, hell yes." "Audio test?" Lex asked. Bubbles grinned. "Mic check 1 2. The humans came through. They dropped into the capital like gods of vengeance. Their ship cloaked until the last second, then slammed through the top of the Grand Spire, shattering glass, steel, and ceremony. From the smoking crater, the team walked out like the end of a prophecy. Soldiers poured in. Precision drills. Formations. Every elite warrior the Empire had left. They fell within minutes. Lex didn't shoot to wound. Neither did her team. Every bolt was retribution. Every step forward was a monument to the dead. The Dominion High Command barricaded itself inside the Crystal Sanctum, a vault of light and illusion at the city's heart, protected by energy fields and reality-bending tech only a sadist would think to design. So Bubbles laughed. "Reality fields? I brought an unreleased copy of Windows 95, Doom Edition. Say goodbye to physics." She jammed a spike into the wall console. A moment later, the field screamed and collapsed. Lex led them in. Inside, the remaining leaders of the Empire stood in terror. Not with defiance. With disbelief. You're not supposed to be here," one stammered. Lex leveled her rifle. "Neither were you on Aurelius." The Emperor stepped forward. Tall, clad in shimmering robes that were supposed to intimidate lesser species. He spoke in a voice designed for command. "We regret the actions of our generals. Those responsible have been punished. Surely we can." "No," Lex said. He hesitated. "But I'm not here for regret. I'm here to end you." The Emperor blinked. "We are willing to sign any treaty." "We're not interested in treaties." Mondo lobbed a miniature EMP into the room, frying comms and weapons in an instant. The High Command shrieked as the lights flickered. Lex stepped closer to the Emperor, their faces inches apart. "For centuries you called yourselves civilized," she said. "You painted your war in gold and silence, and called it governance. You murdered from thrones and screens, never dirtying your claws." "We brought order," the Emperor tried. "No," she whispered. "You brought extinction and called it peace. We were quiet because we believed in better. We bled in silence because we had hope." She raised her weapon. But civilization was just our camouflage. Malik grabbed the broadcast remote from Bubbles and activated the feed. The camera blinked to life, projecting Lex's face across every device in the galaxy. "People of the galaxy," she began, "this is not a declaration of war. That happened when the Empire bombed our worlds. This is a declaration of truth." She gestured behind her. The Emperor was on his knees. The chamber was scorched. The symbols of imperial grandeur burned. "You feared us because we were loud, unpredictable, passionate. You mistook that for weakness. But humanity is not soft. We are fire wrapped in restraint. We are blades dulled by hope." She stared into the lens. "And now you've seen what happens when you strip that away." Across 1,000 systems, beings watched in silence, as humans took control of the very palace that once dictated extermination orders. Some wept. Some cheered. Some simply stared, shaken by the fact that the thing they had mocked now stood as the new apex. Lex lowered the rifle. "We came here to end your empire." But someone else has started ending your planets. That got attention. The disappearances? That's not us. That's something ancient. Something watching. We might have started the fire, but something darker is fanning the flames. She stepped aside. Malik rolled a blackened metal cube across the floor. It unfolded into a hologram, grainy footage of the entity that had consumed Saren V. A shape undefined. A hunger that devoured worlds without sound. The message it leaves behind is clear, Lex said. Hurt humans and vanish. The Empire's leaders were silent. We won't stop hunting those who tried to erase us, Lex said. But maybe now you'll understand something important. She leaned in toward the camera one last time. We didn't become monsters. We just remembered what we are. The feed cut. In the stunned silence, the Emperor whispered, "What now?" Lex turned. "You run." The doomed prophet launched from the burning capital moments later, leaving behind a city shattered not by firepower, but by exposure. The illusion of the Empire's strength was broken. Their leaders, spared only so they could watch the collapse they once directed. Lex sat in the command chair, exhausted but whole. For the first time in years, her hands weren't shaking. Mondo plopped into his seat with a huff. "You think they'll get the message this time?" "If they don't," Bubbles said, stretching, "I've still got Season 4 of Walker, Texas Ranger uploaded in every frequency band." "They'll crack," Malik muttered. "Or they'll vanish." "Either way," Lex said, "we're done hiding behind manners." A long pause followed. Then, a ping from Hank. "Incoming transmission. Unknown origin. Encrypted. Not from Earth. Not from the Empire." Lex sat up. "Play it." The screen flickered. A symbol appeared, a red circle with a slash through the shape of a humanoid figure. Then a voice. Low, echoing, alien, but shaped by something human-like. "You spoke for your kind. You burned with fury. You hunted without mercy. We watched. We judged." Lex swallowed. Her team leaned forward. "You are not weak. You are not prey. You are not alone." The message ended. The screen went dark. No one spoke. Then Lex stood, slowly, her voice soft but sure. "Looks like we woke up the real monsters. And they like what they see." They turned toward the stars. The galaxy would never be the same.